When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Hello, everybody out there in internet land. Hello, how are you? How are you doing? I hope you're doing all right. Whatever you're doing today, thank you for so much for sort of spending a little bit of time with us and putting those headphones in your ears and getting another burst of amazing conversation. And today's conversation is going to be great. I've already sort of had a little chat with the bloke off air, and we've got areas that we're going to touch, and where there's areas that I really don't know where we're going to go, because he's got some interesting points all the way through his life, and that is what Join Up Dots is all about. So let me introduce you to him. Today's guest has been an athlete since he could first walk, with hockey being the true love of his life. It was all he wanted to do, and it was all he focused in on until he reached the age of 23. Then he knew that it was time to make his mark on the world in a different way. But how was he going to do it? Well, like most of us do, off came the skates and on came the suit and tie, and into the corporate arena he went. But over 6 years and multiple positions, such as working for 2 different Fortune 500 companies as a leader of management, and for a financial firm managing a group of agents who maintained a portfolio of $35 million, he just knew it wasn't for him. Waking up at the same time every morning, going to the same job, seeing the same people, and completing the same mundane tasks filled him with dread. So this left him with no choice but to quit and move on to something that he was really passionate about. And now, in the online world of internet marketing, he is quite steadily making his mark and finding a world that fulfills him. As he says, I love to learn, I love new things and new experiences, and I love to help other people. So creating something that I can call my own was everything I ever wanted and desired. So with his new website, Wide-Eyed Concepts, being the hub for this passion and knowledge, let's tap into his expertise and start joining up dots with the one and only Mr. Sean Roulston. How are you, sir?
Wow, I'm incredible. Thanks for that very, very great intro. Probably the best I've ever heard.
I'll tell you what, I will send it to you and you can have it above your bed. So when you're laying there in the wee small hours, and you can look up and see a picture of me looking down at you and those words as well. How good would that be?
I think that'd be fantastic. I'll put it on my vision board. That's what I'll do.
Do you have a vision board?
I do. It's right behind my desk.
And can I ask, because I have a vision board, and I know a lot of people out there are passionate about vision boards, and other people frown on them. And I think that having something that focuses my efforts and my energies and my attention on certain areas I want to achieve, for me, is very powerful. Can I ask what kind of things is on your vision board?
Yeah, I got I have 3 maps. One of all the places I've been, one of all the places I want to go, and then the same map for my wife as well. I have a note that I wrote to myself that was it's just 2 words, and it's a hashtag. It's a hashtag I actually wanted to create, and it's Team Freedom. And I wrote that to myself when I was really struggling with making the jump from the corporate life to going to entrepreneurship. And I have a few other trinkets. One is it's an image that somebody wrote Sean on there, and it's the Superman logo. And I have a couple of fortune cookie resemblances that I've pinned up there as well.
So is Superman an influence in your life, or is it just a kind of iconic figure to aspire to?
I think it's just kind of a mantra thing. I was never really a big Superman fan growing up, but the S goes with Sean, so Super Sean, I just had to put it together. Somebody else made it for me, and I thought it was great. And I think it's just the mentality. When you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to have that mentality that you are unbreakable, and it's just a constant reminder for me to look up at that and say, yeah, this is who I got to be.
Because Superman is one of the most rubbish superheroes. And I'm sorry if there's people out there that absolutely adore Superman, but he's kind of boring, isn't he? Don't you think out of all of them, he just flies around somewhat, doesn't he?
Yeah, it was certainly never my favorite. I didn't even watch the movies, really. I guess, for somebody who's indestructible except for some sort of space rock, I don't know, that always seemed kind of weird to me. But
the weirdest bit for me was that he worked with journalists at the Daily Planet, and he would walk in there on a daily basis with just a pair of glasses on, and no one recognised him. How rubbish are they?
Yeah.
No story must be picked up by that
mask.
paper.
Yeah. Without question. I agree, man. He's certainly I was more of a Batman guy, that's for sure.
Well, do you know, you've got me going now, Sean. Do you know my theory on Batman? And
What's that?
You will probably say this is rubbish, but I will argue anyone down on this. That if you take all the superheroes out there, I find that the majority of them have either been bitten by something, or they've come from another planet, or they've had something weird happen to them that makes them go into sort of superhero mode. But
right.
Batman has just got a lot of money. So, Sean, if you get a lot of money, you could become Batman. You could buy all those stuff and become Batman. How liberating is that? That you just need a load of money and you could become a superhero.
Well, I think that's a really great idea now that you mention it. I mean, what better way could you spend your evenings than driving around in a black tank and saving lives and being an anonymous hero? I mean, that sounds pretty fantastic to me.
And wearing your pants over your trousers, as we say in the United Kingdom. You call it boxer shorts or underwear or whatever, but we call it pants.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wasn't planning to talk about that. So what I'm very keen about is to get you on to the Join Up Dots theme of the show, because as I was saying in the introduction, you have made quite a few jumps recently from areas of your life that weren't fulfilling, areas of your life that just you couldn't see yourself being in for X amount of years. When you were talking to me about your vision board, I jotted down that you said Team Freedom. Now, who was part of that team who inspired you to do that? Or was it just a sort of a big personal team of your own?
I think that when I was writing that down, I didn't really have a team of people. I think it was, or is, I should say, it's an idea that I want to create that anybody can be a part of Team Freedom. It's a choice. And freedom isn't about how much money you make, what hours you work. Freedom is about being able to do what you love to do, that's fulfilling, that's inspiring, that you're passionate about, and that you can give back to the world. And I really want to start a movement that everybody wants to join Team Freedom. There is no requirements. There is no mandatory entrance fees. It's an idea, and I want that to spread so everybody understands that you can join this team whenever you're ready.
How do they do that though? Because I'm talking to people on a daily basis, and probably the majority, if not all, thinking about it, people that I speak to want to give back to the world, want to provide happiness to others, and want to have that same kind of freedom in their own personal life and in the people that they interact with on a daily basis. So if there's so many people out there, why are we all clutching for the same thing, and why are so many people so far away from that realism of freedom?
That's a really good question. I think that obviously the concept of something like freedom it's kind of a twofold thing. It's very subjective in what you determine is freedom, because what I may hold most dear to me, somebody else may not hold as dear to them. Freedom to somebody else maybe, taking their kid to a ball game that they wouldn't normally be able to do. And if I can help somebody generate that income that's going to allow them to help that dream become a reality, then to me that's a part of it. That all things considered. So I think the first part is it's very subjective, and I would say to the second part is that a lot of people think that they're really far away from it, and that's because we live in a world where you're told from a very young age, go to school, get good grades. When you're done with school, go get a degree, and when you're done from there, get a job, work good hours, make good living, save your money, climb the corporate ladder. And then if you're not in that comfort zone, you don't know what to do. And so people think that because they have to follow that path, that someday they're going to make so much money that they're going to be able to go and do whatever they want. And the scary part is that day's never going to come. It's just not. The reality is that we all can amass as much money, fame, power. You can amass as much of that as you want, but you can't get more time. That's the one universal income that everybody's basically on the same amount with, because you don't know when your last second is. You just don't know. There's no way to know. So you have to make that jump sooner rather than later. And I can tell you for me, there was a lot of overcoming obstacles. And I was working at a job, my last job, I was helping people actually get out of that trap. That was something that I found a lot of solace in going to work, was I could help people find their passion and convince them that yes, they could do it. And I was struggling with myself saying, all right, you can help all these other people do it. Why can't you? Why can't you make this jump? Yeah, you're making a really great living. Yeah, all the bills are taken care of. You don't have to worry. You don't have to look at your bank account because you know everything's good. But it wasn't fulfilling, and I thought to myself I was really far away from it, until one day I just said, I can't look at myself in the mirror anymore and say, this is what you're going to do. You know you need to make the jump. And really it came through a lot of just conversations with myself saying, you know what, how bad could it really be? Could you not go find a job if you really needed one? I mean, if push came to shove and everything didn't work out, could you not go find another job? Because everybody measures how far along they are in life, generally speaking, by how much income they're making. If I can get that next promotion, I can make $10,000 more a year, and that's going to give me that happiness. And I was in that trap because I would get to that next level, and I was really, really excited for about 3 days. And then the cycle started over.
It's fascinating, truly fascinating to hear you talk, Sean, because that is my story. The story that you've just said about working in a corporate office, inspiring people to do amazing things and to follow their heart, but you're not taking your own action. That is exactly me. And if you go back to episode 0.5, which is a kind of forerunner to Join Up Dots, when it's just me talking about what I want from the show and a little bit of preamble on my story. I didn't go into it too much because, my God, if I'm doing 7 days a week, I'm going to talk about myself. You can't get away from it. But it is absolutely a mirror image. And it's really strange, isn't it, when you get to that moment when you think to yourself, I can't say these words to somebody else anymore because I'm a total fake if I keep on saying these words and I don't take any action. So when you took that action, you're standing there looking in the mirror and you're thinking to yourself, right, this is it. How bad can it be? Can I get another job? This is it. The leap of faith. This is when I'm going to go there. I'm going to hand in my cards, work my notice, and out you go. Was there a plan? Was there a parachute? Had you started working on things in your own time to sort of ease that transition? Or was it suddenly cold turkey, bang, I was out?
Yeah, so I was, prior to my last job, I was working for T-Mobile, and I had an employee who was working with me, and his name was Tyler Boshiers, and we went golfing one day, and he was telling me he was quitting, so he kind of went into I said, well, what are you going to go do? And he started to explain this internet marketing concept to me. Had no idea what that was at the time, and this was several years ago, And I said, wait, you're going to do what? And he's primarily a Facebook marketer. I mean, he makes what most people would make in a year. He makes that in probably the first, I mean, he makes what most people make in a year in 3 months, just through Facebook alone. And I said, you're making all this money on the internet, and I don't know why it didn't register to me, but he introduced me to a website called the Warrior Forum. And I went over there and I started to dig in, and kind of like you said, my intro, I absolutely love to learn new things. And so I just started learning more. I read more. And for anybody who browses the internet, I mean, there's more information than you can possibly imagine. For somebody who wants to learn, the internet is a double-sided sword because you can go on forever. But I started to make niche websites. And I was kind of doing that in my free time. And I said, if I could do this full-time, then I would be able to replace my income, and I got nothing to worry about. So I started to do that, and I guess, I didn't, at the time that I quit my job, I was making enough to, to pay the bills.
Yeah.
So I did have something in place, but what I didn't like doing was getting off of work and then working for another 6 hours and not having any social life at all. So I wasn't getting or wanting to achieving my goals without putting in 18-hour days every single day. And that wasn't good for the home life. I was, just last year I just got married, so there was a lot of things going on that the timing wasn't good. And I was looking at myself saying, why am I doing this? So yeah, I guess the answer is yeah, I sort of did, but it didn't come without a large sacrifice of time and effort to put into it to begin with.
But that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Because people can transition, and I keep on saying to people, if you're happy in your job, if you're sitting here listening to us two saying you can do amazing things, and you're thinking to yourself, I'm perfectly happy where I am, brilliant. That's all I want for you. You do your job, do it as well as you possibly can, and enjoy your life. And I clap you and I raise my hands in the air and everything. I send goodwill. But if you aren't, and you're in a situation that you're not happy with, and you think that just by getting another job you're going to be happy, it's not necessarily going to be that easy. It's not. So why that's happening, why you are transitioning between jobs, why don't you start, as Sean did, start reading and find things on the internet? And if you are going to be sort of interested in online marketing, because it's probably one of the easiest and most cost-effective ways of bringing in income on a monthly basis, especially when you're not having to do it at that moment, it kind of operates on automatic pilot, then one of the great resources I would recommend anyone going over to is, yes, the Warrior Forum, but I would go before that to Smart Passive Income, which is a website created by an online marketer, affiliate marketer called Mr. Pat Flynn. Sean, what's your spin on that?
Yeah, I recently did a video on branding, and in that video, for anybody who's in internet marketing at all or does any research, I commented on the fact that a lot of people, you can say Pat, and he has first name recognition on the internet. You don't have to go any further. And that in itself is, I don't even know what else you need to say. It's when it comes to somebody who's as genuine as it gets and puts out amazing content. There's no doubt in my mind that that's an absolutely fantastic resource. I have nothing but good things to say, obviously, about what he's doing.
And it's honesty, isn't it? It's honesty and transparency. And he calls himself now, I think, the crash test dummy, where he says, I will try things first. And if they don't work, I will tell you they didn't work, or I will show you my mistakes. And there's quite easy ways of building a certain amount of residual income whilst you sleep. But at the end of the day, you've got to put the effort in, because if you're at work 9 till 5, when are you going to do it? I'm sure your boss isn't going to let you sit there creating websites and stuff while you're sitting there. You've got to do it in the evening. Right. So there's got to be a certain amount of sacrifice, hasn't there? There's got to be. But unfortunately, it's kind of cheap sacrifice. It's just time and effort.
Yeah, I mean that's really it comes down to blood, sweat, and tears. And I would tell you this, and I was telling you before the show, I'm in time of transition again. So I've been doing the internet marketing thing, and I've really, really loved it. And I'm actually transitioning to a separate project right now where I'm just going straight from my website, seanroulston.com. I'm really, really big into, I would call it biohacking, but I would call it healthy living as well, because I have somewhat of a story with that in itself, and it's a separate way that I can help people because I believe that as a business person, your body, your mind, and your soul are your business as much as your website is. And you have to take care of all of those things if you expect to achieve great results. And so what this separate project is about is really a lot of people are really familiar with Pat's income reports. I think he's invented them, and there's been kind of a spin-off of people who are doing the same concept now.
Can you just explain for people that don't know what Pat's income reports are? Just fill them in.
Yeah. So Pat basically breaks down every aspect of his business and how much money it accumulated during that month, and what it was plus or minus from the previous month, and then he tells you what attributed to which part of his business, either it was good or it was bad. And he does that for his websites, his applications that he's built, any courses he may have sold, all of his affiliate commissions. So he gives you basically an all-inclusive look of how much money he makes, and he does that every single month. That's kind of his calling card. So, David, something that I'm doing that's a little bit separate is I'm going to do like a full body report. And something that I've started this month is I have extremely, extremely bad food allergies. And I've eliminated gluten from my diet altogether. And I'm going to be measuring all of my vitals. And I'm going to be doing different things every 30 days and marking down the success or failures that I have. This is going to include yoga, meditation, different diets, different exercises. And ultimately, I want to get my body to a place where it's as optimized as I can possibly be so I can have the best business possible. And I'm going to track all of this for everybody. So they're going to be able to follow along, and I'm going to give it all away. I'm going to give all of this away absolutely free.
Have you always had that, Ben? Because I'm sitting here talking to you on Skype, looking at a picture of you, and it looks like you're in ice hockey gear. So, and I said in the introduction, you was always an athlete. So,
yes.
Was it something that when you stopped at 23, you've kind of let yourself go a bit, or is it something that because you weren't doing that constant energy producing activities on a daily basis, it's now come to the fore?
I think that I've always had it, but I think the amount of exercise that I put in certainly masked it. And I think a lot of people don't realize some of the things that they have going on with their body, and they think that they feel really good because, maybe they are in pretty good shape, or, maybe they haven't gotten to an age where, the pounds start to add on because you go from working out 7 days a week to where you spend 40 hours sitting in a desk chair. And, I kind of want to show people that there is that way. I mean, for me, I had to make a change because several years ago, I was diagnosed with leaky gut syndrome, which 7 out of 10 Americans have. But basically what it is that I have holes in my intestinal walls because gluten doesn't process in my body. And what happens when you have those holes in your walls is that the food gets into your bloodstream and it causes autoimmune diseases. So I had to have them stick the scope down into my stomach and have them look around. And the specialist looked at me and he said, "You have a precancerous spot on your stomach." And this was actually when I was in really, really good shape. I just wasn't able to sleep. I had such bad heartburn, I was sleeping sitting up. So I knew I had to make a change. And as opposed to going to Western medicine, I went to a holistic doctor. And he's like, "Let's try a food allergy test." And that was like a light bulb moment. I cut out everything I was allergic to, and the weight started to fall off. I didn't need any medicine anymore, and I was starting to get the best health ever. So that's really what this project is about, is that I want to help other people from a health perspective, not just their business.
Because there seems to me a synergy with people taking action and people getting fitter at the same time. And it seems to me a lot of the people who I have worked with, and I'm not saying your names out there, but you know you're not in shape. They would sit at their desks on a daily basis and then pretty much go home and sit on their sofa in the evening. But then when they suddenly did shake themselves and start to sort of doing a bit of exercise, you could see the whole thing blooming. And then suddenly they were, they had more energy in the office and they were coming to more social dues, and their whole life seemed to suddenly bloom like a well-tended garden. And it was simply the case that they were creating energy in their body that they previously didn't have, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, you have to think about what we're exposed to as humans in a culture that puts in front of you things that seem so unattainable all the time. For a lot of people, if you were to look at Pat Flynn's success, and you would see that his last month he made $75,000, most people look at that and go, oh my God, that'll never be me. And to the person who says that, you're absolutely right. But the truth is, and it goes for health too, it's not about waking up tomorrow and having a six-pack. It's about getting out of bed and going for a walk. And whether you're building your business or you're building your health, it's all about taking the first step, because it doesn't matter who you are, you have to take that first step. And nobody starts off just jumping out into whatever arena it is and being successful. Yes, there are the people who appear to have overnight success, but there's probably a lot of planning that goes into that. And are you familiar with a Fibonacci spiral, David?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so a Fibonacci spiral is it's a mathematical sequence that doubles upon itself. And the spiral itself infinitely grows. And when you're thinking about relating a Fibonacci spiral back to your health or your business, whether you want to build a community, it starts with the first person. And then the first person turns into two people. And those two people tell somebody, and two turns into four. And four turns into eight. And eventually, your spiral becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. And the same concept holds true for what you do in your health as well. And this is really what I want to show people, is that your spiral can be as big as you want it to be, but you have to focus on the small wins. Because it's really, really easy to get caught up and see that you're not having success in a world where everybody's projecting all of their success in front of you. So you have to see that you made an impact in one person's life and know that down the road, that's going to pay off huge dividends.
It is. It's the joining up the dots, isn't it? And with joining up the dots, it could be the steps you've taken in your own personal life. It can be the obstacles you've overcome, or it can be the connections with people. And for me, join up dots is a phrase that's become more powerful as I've continued to do this, and more people are coming into my life. And the fact that we're having this conversation now, 4 weeks ago, I'd never heard of you, and you had never heard of me.
Yep.
Except somebody once told me about this weird hockey player who dresses like Superman. So it might have been yourself. But it is, isn't it? It's all those connections, and you make one connection, and then two people come, and then four people come. So I totally buy in what you're saying, but you've got to take the initial action, haven't you? You've got to do something, and that something can lead on to something else.
This is probably my biggest beef with people in general on the internet. Is their biggest advice is they say this: take massive action. Okay, so what does that mean? Take massive action. I mean, to the untrained person who hears that, does that mean just go do a whole bunch of stuff? It doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're doing something. And it's funny, before I jumped on this podcast with you, I shot Steven a message and I said, thank you very much for the referral. I really appreciate it. And to me, when I think about taking action, how this whole thing came to start is I had posted an article on niche sites several months ago, and Steven left a really nice comment. And
Stephen,
I made sure as
just introduce Stephen. Stephen is Stephen Reichwalder from 5 Months to Freedom. Who, for people that are listening, he was episode 10. He was on episode 10.
And I could have just said, thanks, Stephen, I appreciate that, and moved on. But to me, taking action is going one step further, and me shooting him a message and saying, hey, I really appreciate that share. How else can I help you? What do you have going on? And really investing in something that I didn't have before. And a great relationship formed, and he introduced me to more people, and I've been able to have an impact on his business, and it's led me to this point here where I'm having, the great honored opportunity to be able to talk to you and hopefully reach out to an even bigger audience. And that all started because I didn't just say thanks. I took it one step further. And so for anybody who, wants to know what is it about taking action, to me, that's really what it's all about. It's about really investing in the time with one person and impacting that person as much as you possibly can.
And as the great Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely the truth.
Now, I don't know who Wayne Gretzky is in any shape or form, but that quote has come past me probably 30 times in the last 2 or 3 years. It's like all great quotes, and we're going to play Steve Jobs' speech in a moment. It's so simple, isn't it? It's so simple, but so powerful as well. And I'm going to say it again. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you try stuff, you may fail 99% of the time. But that one time will bring you success, and that will lead you to future successes. You've got to go through failures, and you've got to take action, and you've got to think to yourself, if I don't take that shot, nothing's going to happen. And which is exactly the same as Steve Jobs in his own way. He says it as slightly different, but I'm going to play it now. And this is his 2005 speech. And as I always do with a guest, once I play this, I'm going to ask you, is it relevant now? Is it relevant to your life? Or is it something that you think is ongoing? So this is Steve Jobs.
Right.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college. But it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
So as I was saying, Sean, is that relevant? Is it as relevant today as it was when you first started taking action on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think, I'm really glad that you played that, and I think that's a great question. I think that if you ever read any of the great motivational self-help, however you want to label those books, like the Think and Grow Rich, which is by Napoleon Hill, and he spends a lot of time quoting Dale Carnegie. The message from 1920 to 2014 is still the same. It's still relevant. The recipe for success has not changed. And it's an everlasting belief in yourself, determination, hard work, sacrifice. All of the principles and everything are as relevant from 2005 as they are today. And everybody has their different flair or take that they add to it, but I think it's absolutely relevant.
Where can that take people? That belief system of knowing, or not even knowing, just trusting that what they do could potentially work out. And it's only a potential, isn't it, at the beginning? We're not saying to anyone that you're going to instantly take loads and loads of action and it's going to be successful, but there's a potential there.
Yeah, the hardest part, I think, about going off and chasing your dreams is that it's very, very easy to be miserable and wake up every day and know that on the next Friday you're going to get paid. And you're going to know that you're going to be able to live paycheck to paycheck. And you know that while you're miserable, at least you know what you're going to be able to expect. There's a lot of comfort in that, and it is. I mean, I can't tell you that for the success that I've had 10 times as many failures as I would look at them to be quote unquote failures. And anybody you talk to that's successful is going to tell you that, yeah, I screwed up so many times along the way, but that's the only way that you learn. And I think that that's where people get stuck, is they know they can go to a job where they're not going to screw up. You know exactly what's expected of you. You know exactly what you need to do. And even though it's not fulfilling and it's not what you want to do, you're going to do it anyway. And that's the hurdle you have to overcome, and just say, it's okay. I'm going to make mistakes. But is that really going to be the end? Is that the end of the road? Because a lot of mistakes turn out to be really big blessing in disguise. It's going to lead you down the path that you need to go down, and you know what? I never need to do that again. It's like sticking your hand on a hot stove. You only do it once. And yeah, does it leave you a little mark? Yeah, maybe. And is the pain there forever? No, absolutely not.
That's a key point that you're making there, because so many people have said that through the episodes, and it's something that I've said myself, that my darkest point in my professional career, when I was at my most miserable, I look back on it now and I go, thank God for that, because if I hadn't have been miserable, I'd probably still have been where I was. So the dark and the light can flip over, can't it? It can totally change with your perspective as you proceed away from wherever you were, because you've made that change happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very true. Most people, and I always find this interesting, is that most people listen to a story from somebody who's successful. Take, for instance, Donald Trump. Most people look at Donald Trump and the first thing they say is, yeah, he was bankrupt several times. And a lot of people associate themselves right away with the failure, and they tie that in, but most people have that same story. They have something that they had to overcome, some hurdle that they had to get over, and they may just not even recognize what it is. I think for the longest time, I may not have recognized what that was. And, as a human race, we're very resilient. You have to be. It's really interesting that when your back is against the wall and you have to produce something, most of the time it happens. And it's being able to put yourself in that position and be uncomfortable and know that you're going to make it happen because you have to.
I call that point your big dot. In the Join Up Dots theme, that big dot, that big major obstacle that you had to overcome, and whether you clambered over it, you're on all fours, or you just kind of walked around it, but it took you ages to get around it. Once you got to the other side, that was where your path started. And for most of us, that is when you suddenly find that you kind of knew your path already. You just couldn't see it. It was your unique self. And I'm going to ask you that, Sean. Now you're in this transition, and we are going to sort of touch on what you actually are doing at the moment, because I think we haven't sort of covered that enough. But do you think that you are now being unique to yourself? Do you think that you are playing to your strengths?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think a lot of people, David, I think they really struggle with, I know I want to do something, but I don't know what it is that I want to do. And because you have to have that blind faith, you have to have that trust and belief in yourself. Here's how I would describe to people that I found what it is that I wanted to do. And I would tell you that niche sites isn't it. I was successful with niche sites, but that's not ultimately what I wanted to do. I would say that if you can ask yourself this question, unfathomably, you need to take action on it. And that question is, can I be the absolute best at whatever that topic is? Can I be the best blogger on biohacking, health, and fitness? If your answer is yes, then you need to go after it. Because no matter what happens, you have that self-belief in yourself that you can be the best at it. And that's all you need. Because being the best itself is subjective. If you want to be the best, the desire's there, that you may not have with something else. And the desire is what you need. If you have the desire, it doesn't matter if you fail or you succeed, you're going to keep coming and keep coming. And that determination is going to get you where you want to go.
Mike Michalowicz, who was episode 2, said, you need to have the belief that you can be the best you possibly can in the arena you choose. So you don't have to be the world's greatest runner. You don't have to be the world's best. You just have to be extremely good in the area that you choose. And when you think about that, that's quite liberating. You know, I'm doing a podcast, and I'm doing a daily podcast, and there's loads of people doing podcasts out there, and there's thousands and millions of people who are doing this that would blow me out of the water. They're so much better than me because they've been doing it for longer. But there's some people behind me that possibly aren't as good as me because I'm doing it on a daily basis. I've got to get better. But I know in my heart of hearts, 2 years down the line, I'm going to listen back to episode 28, although I think it's a great episode, and I'm going to think, my God, listen to me back there. I'm a different person. So it's about taking practice. It's about taking the shots that you never take, as we say, and it's about having that belief that you can become the best that you can possibly be.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, it's, I think that there's a lot of wisdom to the quotes that you've shared, and, you know, there's a lot of great quotes that go around on the internet, and I have no regrets. But when you think about what do you invest your time into, because you read stories about people, and very rarely is there overnight success, but that's what everybody wants. We live in a world where Vine is the most popular application because people's attention span's 6 seconds long. But if you were to stop and think about this, you know, the people that are listening to this, this is kind of what I would want you to take away. If you could invest 4 years to go get a degree, and I think education's fantastic, but think about it from this perspective. If you could invest that same 4 years in your dream and in your business, if you were 29 like I am, and you stopped to look back at 33, where do you think you would be? If you poured your heart and soul into your business for 4 straight years.
Where do you think you will be then in 4 years' time, Sean?
You know, it's going to be... that's a really good question. I would say that I don't... I try not to look that far ahead because I think 4 years can be discouraging if I'm trying to compare myself to where I'm going to be in 4 years versus what I'm doing today. But I envision myself being one of the aforementioned leaders in the health and wellness industry, and I think that's all just going to happen right through my blog. I want to be a public speaker. I want to, help really create products that can give back to people in their health and wellness, and things that they can share, and really have conversations like this, David, where we can reach large audiences of people and inspire them and motivate them to make lifestyle changes that's going to move them ultimately where they want to go so that they can impact more people.
Do you know where I'd like to be in 4 years' time?
Where would you like to be?
I was thinking about this the other day, and as you were talking there, it sort of came back to me. But I would like to be in a bar with Sean Roulston, having a beer, and knowing that this one connection that we've had now not only impacted other people, it built about a relationship that we could have a drink and have a chat. And I say that to all the guests. I don't say it to them, but I think it in my head. That for these 40 minutes, these 50 minutes, the conversations that I'm having seem to be deeper and more insightful than any conversations that I have with anyone else. Certainly, I don't have these conversations with my wife and my kids and all those kind of stuff because it's not that environment. And that's what I would like. I would like to say that in 4 years' time, I could travel the globe and have friends wherever I go because we've had that interaction for that brief moment of time.
I think we definitely got to put that on the calendar, my man. I don't know if you're a Liverpool fan, but I'm a big fan.
Are you really?
Absolutely.
And so I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I have to say I kind of want them to win. Now, if you're listening to this sort of in 10 years' time, Liverpool might just be winning the title, the Premiership title, for the first time in about 24 years. So it's a big time at the moment. They're 3 games away. And a lot of Liverpool supporters are getting very excited. And a lot of football supporters are kind of getting excited for them because they've kind of done it the right way. They've built a team and they've worked hard at it, and they're stronger for their sum of the parts than the individuals, although the individuals are very strong as well. So why are you a Liverpool fan?
It's a funny story. I have a good friend who came over here from England, and I live in Wichita, Kansas. And so this is kind of the polar opposite of England, I would imagine. And he's a huge Liverpool fan. I'm kind of a diehard Packers fan. And he, to get each other into each other's sport, we said, well, how about you be a Packers fan? I'll get you into football. And he said, how about you support Liverpool and I'll get you into football? And that relationship kind of grew and prospered. And I would say that, as a young child, Brett Favre was kind of a childhood hero. And I look at somebody like Steven Gerrard, who he has qualities that are hard work, great leadership, a true champion. And I've just had to have been a supporter ever since.
It's interesting you're saying about hard work there, because I'm looking at Wayne Gretzky quotes in front of me. Again, I'm looking at this chap, and I don't know him from Adam, but he obviously is pretty good, or he was pretty good. Does he still play?
No. What's funny about that is that my dad actually played with Wayne Gretzky in the 80s in Edmonton, and I've gotten to meet him a few times. And for somebody who is, without question, one of the greatest athletes ever, he's the most humble person you would ever meet in your entire life.
Well, I can guess that, because this quote that he says here is, the highest compliment that you can pay me is to say that I work hard every day, that I never dog it. Now, that's humble, isn't it?
Well, I remember asking my dad, I said, obviously he has great stories, but I said, you got to play with the greatest player of all time. What made him great? And there's always a cliche in sports that, he gave 110%, yada, yada, yada. And he said to me, he literally gave his absolute best every single night. That was the difference between him and everybody else. It wasn't that he was the most talented. He was very talented. It wasn't that he was the most skilled, but nobody outworked him. He literally was, or gave his best every single time he stepped on the ice. And that stuck with me forever. Do you give your best? And I'm going to sort of put a subtext on that. Do you give your best, but then afterwards beat yourself up because you haven't realised what your best was in your mind after you did that? Yeah, I mean, I think that it's easy to do, especially as an entrepreneur, because it's very hard to see what your wins are, because having built, like the example that's led me to having this conversation with you, I look at that as one of my greatest successes that I've had as an entrepreneur. And that was really, it wasn't gaining a fan, it was building a relationship with a like-minded entrepreneur that's opened up a ton of doors to me. And it wasn't somebody who was, making $75,000 a month in affiliate sales. It wasn't somebody who started up a tech startup in Southern California. It wasn't somebody who was a millionaire. It was somebody who was chasing their dream just like me. And you have to be really mindful of those things, because if you're not, you're going to be in a dark place.
Because I think that's the thing that holds me back more than anything, where I will do these shows, and afterwards, as soon as I finish, I think, oh damn, I should have said that, or I missed that, or that was an area that we should have gone into. Now, funnily enough, I've listened back to some of the shows. I don't do it all the time because I'm sort of doing so many of them, but I've listened back to them, and it's almost like I become a listener. It's not me. and I've actually enjoyed them, even though after I finished I was literally whipping myself because I felt that I hadn't done as well as I should have done. And that's so common, isn't it? That's so common when people aren't on salary and they are striving for freedom, financial freedom, time freedom, and all those kind of things, that they kind of think, oh, I just missed a beat, or oh, that didn't quite work, and if only I did that. And you don't celebrate the small successes.
Yeah, and there's so many of them. I mean, there really is. I mean, when you think about just every element of what you have in front of you, and this is why I say you're going to make a ton of mistakes when you think about how well your Facebook fan page is doing, how well you're doing on Twitter, what about Pinterest? If somebody's telling you that you should be building your email list, but you're not getting as many subscribers as they say you should be getting. Is your info product good enough? Are you using YouTube enough? I mean, there's so many elements that go into it that, you know, people are always telling you this is what you need to do to be successful. That if you don't stop and realize the good things that you're doing, you're going to be in a state of turmoil all the time. It's inevitable. Because of all the things that are in front of you and all the resources that are in front of you, self-claimed gurus and specialists and everything else. So it's taking the very, very small steps, building your spiral, and understanding that at some point you're going to look back and you're going to say, wow, look where I started. And you'll never go back.
Well, I think that's the perfect segue to the last bit of the show, which is the Sermon on the Mic. And that's the part when I send you back in time to actually look at where you come from and have a one-to-one with little Sean. Whatever age you choose him to be, he's waiting to get the pearls of wisdom from Big Sean. So I'm going to play the music, as I always do, and when it fades out, it's over to you. This is a Sermon on the Mic.
With the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
Hello, Sean. This is much older Sean. You are about to pack up, head off to college, and start your life just as you know it. And I want to give you a little advice, since I'm about a decade ahead of you. I would tell you that as opposed to listening to everybody around you and them telling you what you should do, that you need to follow your heart, you need to do what you love, because everybody's going to tell you that you have your entire life ahead of you. But you're going to wake up one day, and you're going to be married, and you're going to be almost 30, and you're going to say to yourself, why didn't I start this when I was 18? So stay motivated, follow your dreams, believe in yourself, work hard, and you'll get everything you want in life.
And that really goes out to everyone, doesn't it? Not just little Sean, but anyone who's listening out there today, that's words that they can take with them.
I certainly hope so.
Well, I think that's the case. And Sean, it's been an absolute delight to have you on the show today. I love the fact, as we were saying in the conversation, that we connected because of another guest that's been on the show, because I think that's how you do build that momentum. And I can't remember how that spiral, what was it, Fenerbahce spiral?
Yeah, the Fibonacci spiral.
Fibonacci spiral. That's what we're actually doing at the moment, isn't it? And
absolutely.
1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, and so on, so on, so on. So hopefully this conversation today can impact one person's life, and they go and talk to their colleagues, and then they've started their own circle. So thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for being so open and generous with your time, and of course talkative. And keep on building what you're doing, because it gives you an opportunity to reach out for those dreams and grasp them, and also to have the opportunity of coming back on the show and telling us what you've achieved. Because I believe that by joining up our dots and connecting our paths, we have the best opportunities to build our future. Sean Roulston, thank you so much.
David, it was a huge honor, man. I really appreciate it, and I love what you're doing. I wish you the best.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.